Conservationists push to return the glory of Illinois' Prairie State nickname. WIFR's Nathaniel Langley finds how restoration efforts in Ogle County may plant the seed for a better environment.
Alan Brenhagen steps on history.
This is a relic of the original tallgrass prairie.
Once a slice of Illinois' 22 million acres of prairie, the 4-acre plot is one of the final resting places for the state's amber waves.
And this is, called Beach Cemetery Prairie Nature Preserve.
It's also a graveyard for Ogle County settlers from the 1850s.
This guy died when he was just 30 years old.
But the Natural Land Institute's executive director sees a chance to resurrect the area.
For long-term conservation, we need bigger expanses of prairie.
What concerns do you have about the amount of prairie land being so small in Illinois?
Some of the rare plants, some of the unique animals. I mean, it sounds crazy, but they actually can get inbred when some of these things have small populations.
The nonprofit plans to expand Beach Cemetery to 153 acres.
It's going to be continually farmed. It's a 2-year ag lease, and we'll take the funds from that to reserve for the restoration costs.
Do you think Illinois is moving in the right direction for prairie restoration?
Yes, very much so.
Brenhagen references the state's Rewilding Act, approved in February.
The first one in the United States.
The law allows the Illinois Department of Natural Resources to return land to natural states.
That's a restorationist's dream.
How long would restoration take?
Well, we're looking at a long-range plan here. After it's pollinated.
With help from bumblebees and birds, the director hopes a rehabbed prairie blooms with new life.
They start to show up, and the whole system, I hope, will start to function a little better then.
In Ogle County, Nathaniel Langley, WIFR News.
The Institute plans an open hour at the preserve on September 9th. The property may one day grow prairie seeds for restoration elsewhere in northern Illinois.